As long-term and hugely valued supporters of Bred to Win, it's been intriguing following the progression of New Zealand's Cambridge stud since the ownership was taken over by Brendan and Joe Lindsay from the late Sir Patrick Hogan and Lady Justine. Profiling a new sire, a rare 2-year-old and 3-year-old Group 1 winner by Frankel in Chaldean, and looking back on some of those recent successes, I caught up with Henry Plumptre. It's been quite a few weeks, hasn't it, for Cambridge Stud? Some fabulous winners on the track for your Stallions, in your own Cambridge Stud colours for Brendan and Joe and the team, and of course a new Stallion to announce.
Yeah, it's been a terrific couple of months, Caroline, really. We haven't really taken a backward step since 1st of January. We had a great sales season, 100% clearance with all of our yearlings. We started thinking about the new Stallion probably in February. We couldn't really identify anything in Australia that we could afford or that would suit the market here. And then John Ferguson came to stay with me from Newmarket for a couple of days in February, and he put the idea into our head, and particularly to Brendan, we might be able to do a deal with Juddmonte to get Chaldean down here. There were many boxes that horse ticked for us. A son of Frankel, who is currently breaking all records on the global stage as a sire, a Group 1 winning 2-year-old, a Group 1 winning 3-year-old, which was a classic. We sort of had a chat about it, and we decided that probably the best thing to do would be to ask Juddmonte if we could come up to Newmarket and have a look at the horse. They agreed, and Brendan and I went up the week before the Easter sale, spent a couple of days in Newmarket talking to Juddmonte, inspecting the horse, and then we flew home and we put the deal together over the next couple of weeks. I think the inspection was very important, Caroline, because we wanted to see the horse in the flesh. He's a gorgeous looking horse, very strong, comes from a great 2-year-old family. He's got quite a bit of the influence of his maternal sire, Dutch Art, in his conformation, good hip and shoulder, and we think he'll suit breeders down here very well indeed.
Chaldean on the far side, out in front, the Dewhurst winner.
Distance-wise, he was probably at his limit at 1,600 metres, probably more in the comfort zone at 1,400, which was the Dewhurst distance. But all in all, we thought that he was the perfect package for New Zealand. We were absolutely delighted when the family at Juddmonte decided that Cambridge was the place that he should be for the next 5 years.
It is quite a coup to get a Stallion from Juddmonte. I mean, they're so careful with their wonderful racehorses who become Stallions. You know, for you to link up as Cambridge Stud with Juddmonte, I mean, obviously breeders and they've raced, you know, the likes of Danehill and Frankel and so many more. It's quite a coup for New Zealand to get a horse from such incredible global breeders.
I wouldn't say I've had a relationship with them since 1988, Caroline, but I was with John Massara when we purchased Danehill that year. At the time, it was a massive deal. I think Arrowfield paid £4 million for Danehill and offloaded 50% of it to Cornwall for the Northern Hemisphere. It's a relationship that goes back that far for me. I knew Philip Mitchell, who was the chief executive there for many years during my time in Newmarket. Obviously, I haven't had as much to do with them in the latter years when I was working for Sheikh Mohammed, but they are a great team, probably globally the most successful breeders in the last 40 years. They've bred some incredible horses and they've got some great bloodlines. We like to think, or I hope to think, that standing a horse at Cambridge is a reflection of what we've tried to achieve in the last 6 years, and that they've got confidence in the farm and the confidence in our people here that we can get the horse off the ground to a really good start.
It's Chaldean looking to hold on now from Royal Scotsman.
And of course, you know, being a Dewhurst winner, we know obviously, even though it's over 7 furlongs, it is, you know, great to have that Group 1 2-year-old form. But it's interesting you're saying that the mile, when he won the 2,000 guineas, is sort of the limit. So he's a horse that has the potential, I guess, to be putting a bit more speed into a lot of the New Zealand, you know, those wonderful New Zealand broodmare families.
The mare herself, his dam, Swirlita, is a very strong mare with a good hip and shoulder herself, and I think he's probably taken on quite a bit of her conformation. He's a very strong horse, but very athletic at the same time. I'm excited about walking him out onto the grass at Cambridge in front of our breeding base here, because I know they'll love him.
And of course, as you said, by the mighty Frankel, and he is the first son of Frankel to stand next to his sire at Banstead Manor, so that's some achievement in itself. But, you know, looking at the 2,000 guineas, we know that that was when, you know, to my mind, Frankel really showed what a champion he was with that devastating win. And Chaldean, you know, his win was incredibly dominant in that, you know, incredible Stallion making English classic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different pattern of racing over there at Caroline, as you know. They tend to hit the front a long way out sometimes in those classics, and they're basically asked to get to the line under a strong ride, and that's basically what he did in the Guineas. Obviously, he wasn't as dominant as his father, but his father was a freak. What we loved about his race record, and if you look at the finish of most of his races, he's a horse that really pins his ears back and has a go. So he was tough and durable, and could perform at that very elite level, and that, I think that will stand him in very good stead.
He just loved the way, when joined by the second, the way he found a bit more late on.
You know, right from the outset, he was a standout as a son of Frankel and with his dam side of 550,000 guineas foal. But interesting, you know, you're limiting him, which is what we're seeing more and more from sensible breeders. You know, for the first season, 120 mares. That just makes so much sense, doesn't it, in the modern day, so that, you know, for buyers and breeders, that they're not competing with too many others. And it's so good for a young stallion.
He may cover a slightly bigger book next year, but the basis for the 120 is he's covering quite a large book of mares in Newmarket as we speak. And I think as a 4-year-old stallion, they don't want to overtax him, and neither do we. We've all been involved with stallions which have been overfaced in their first year or two of operation, and it leads to problems down the track. We're very comfortable with 120, and if we can get the first year under our belt, we'll have a very good idea what his capabilities are in terms of fertility and numbers, and we might move the goalposts a little bit next year. But that's next year. We'll get this year out of the way first, and we have got that cap of 120.
100 out, Circle of Fire, beating off Athabaskan.
And of course, you know, your absolute champion racehorse, Almanzor, a dual champion stakes winner, British and Irish champion stakes winner. What a job he's doing. And obviously you have had enormous faith in this gorgeous son of Wootton Bassett. But, you know, quite outstanding. A Quinella in the Sydney Cup in the Autumn Carnival just gone, and also with the first and second home in the VRC St Ledger, and so many other strong performers for your wonderful Almanzor currently.
He's had a wonderful year, Caroline, and it's the sort of year that we always hoped that he would. Probably the back end of the season has been stronger than the front end, but, you know, no one's counting really at Cambridge. We're just happy that he's now hitting the board every week just about with a good horse, and not just in New Zealand. He's getting elite horses in Australia as well. Obviously he's put his hand up and said that he's very much a middle distance stallion, and that they're maturing as 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, but there's nothing wrong with that. Some of the greatest stallions in New Zealand in the last 50 years have been exactly that. Middle distance horses that mature as back-end 3-year-olds and run on as 4- and 5-year-olds. I think Almanzor is still quite dominant in that sector. He still dominates his mares, and we're very excited about him in the future. However, we have dropped his fee from 50 to 30. That is an acknowledgement of where the market conditions are at the moment, and basically to encourage those breeders who supported him in the first 4 years or 5 years at stud to come back to him again this year, knowing that we have an eye on market conditions and we're looking out for them.
You know, we know he has sired a Karaka Millions winner, but it's exciting as well as obviously being that middle distance stallion. The 2-year-olds that we're seeing that have been coming out, you know, now we're getting towards the back end of this season. Thuza, I thought was really wonderful just early on at Tarapa on the weekend. Also a grand foal of the Great Sea Change, the same as Storm Boy. So some wonderful, you know, families in the mares that are going to him. And Nucleazor, a Welcome Stakes winner, so a listed winner as well just recently. There are so many good young horses coming through, and as you say, these horses are expected to mature and be even better at 3 and 4.
Well, I hope so. In the case of Nucleazor, we're delighted for David Ellis and Tiaka that they've got a good one by the horse. He's been a very loyal supporter of ours, of all of the stallions. He's a shareholder in Hello Youmzain. The horse has come home, I gather, to Tiaka to spell. And his aim in the spring, I think Mark wants to try and get him down to Riccarton for the 2,000 guineas, and that would be really exciting for the stallion. In terms of the filly, Thuza, we bought her off the Oaks 2 years ago. Dick Caraman is another very big supporter of ours, and Rick Williams over there at the Oaks. So we were very happy to buy a nice filly off them. I remember Sea Change Caroline. She was such a good mare, but not very big. Very strong, a typical Cape Cross, if you want to put it like that. This filly reminded me very much of her grandmother when she was at the sale. She wasn't very big, but she was very strong and she had a terrific walk. And, you know, she's gone to a local trainer, Tony Pike, who's very good with that type of New Zealand bred filly. And I think she's got a very exciting future ahead of her.
Now starting to swamp him late, Bold Soul.
And really great to see Embellish, as a real value stallion, son of Savabeel, has been having winners left, right and centre. Bold Soul, he won the John Dillon, the Tasmanian Derby, and of course now the South Australian Chairman Stakes as a first stakes winner for Embellish.
It's fantastic to see him doing it in Australia, but I think on a local base here, Caroline, he gets a lot of winners and has probably just missed at the top level. I mean, obviously he ran second in the 2,000 guineas at Riccarton last year, and we had the filly Lubron who went down and ran fourth in the 1,000 guineas. If either or both of them had converted, we wouldn't be having this conversation, we'd be having a different conversation. But at the end of the day, the horse stood at an average fee of $4,000 in those first years, and it's very difficult to achieve the level of success that he's achieved off that service fee. So we're excited about his future, and obviously that line is so important to Cambridge and so important to New Zealand.
400,000 he goes, last chance, done.
And the Hello Youmzains, again, you know, it just keeps on keeping on, doesn't it, in the stallion business? I mean, his yearlings have sold so well.
You know, you go to the market with a group of yearlings and you hope that they're going to sell well. His yearlings have been very well received, and his average has been very, very good at the sales this year. He has a sales topper in New Zealand of 425,000, 400,000 at Sydney Easter, a beautiful colt, a half-brother to Grunt that was prepared by Trelawney, and a great reward for them because, again, they've been great supporters of Cambridge and the Cambridge Stallions. We've kept a leg in that, well, we've bought a leg in that colt because we liked him. Now they've got to convert, Caroline, but we've got a lot of them over there in Australia, and one Australian trainer remarked to me when he saw them as yearlings, he said they look like they're going to run through brick walls, and that's a great attribute for the horse to have. They're strong, they're bold, they've got good scope, and we're pretty excited about next year.
And sort of state your young son of Snitzel, I guess, you know, he's right back at the beginning of his career, but some lovely foals on the ground.
Lovely foals on the ground. We're going to do a bit of a Coles to Newcastle thing with him, and we'd like to sell some of his progeny in Australia. I mean, just a handful at Magic Millions and a few more for the other sales would probably be a good thing, particularly showcasing a horse that throws very much to his own sire. Very strong, they've got great backsides, and they look like they're going to go early. So fingers crossed, we've got some lovely horses for the sales, and so have our breeding base here in New Zealand, and we hope they go well for them.
Jolly Star taken to the front.
Finally touching on the success of the racing team, and again it seems every week we're seeing the gold and black colours of Cambridge Stud that are being successful. But I mean, what an outstanding result for Jolly Star at the Sydney Autumn Racing Carnival. Of course, already a 1,000 guineas winner in Melbourne, but to win that Group 2 Arrowfield Sprint with Brendan and Joe and the whole Cambridge Stud team there was just wonderful to see.
Yeah, she's a flag bearer in the same way that Probabeel was a flag bearer for us, Caroline, during the early part of our time here. It's great for an operation the size of Cambridge to have a filly like that running in Australia and being competitive. It was also fantastic that Brendan and Joe were there on Arrowfield Sprint Day to lead her in and bring the trophy back to New Zealand. It's important for us to have these signature black type fillies going into the broodmare band at the end of their racing career. Jolly Star's in the paddock now. She's at Limitless Lodge at Wyong and she'll be there for 6 weeks. And then Chris is going to come up with a programme for the spring. We're not absolutely certain what her best trip will be, but somewhere between that 12 and 1600 metre range will be probably her sweet spot. But we're very lucky to have her. And we've got a couple of other fillies in that sort of mould as well. Zurion, we think, will come back as a 4-year-old, and she'll be a very handy filly as well.
Well, certainly plenty to look forward to, but it's always an evolving beast, isn't it, a stud farm? Congratulations on what's been happening, because, it really is taking Cambridge Stud, as you said, into sort of a new era and maintaining the great history of the operation.
Well, it's one thing to be able to run a stud farm and stallions and broodmares and foals, but the most important thing for us and our brand is to get those gold and black colours out there as much as we can, particularly in Australia. And I think we've done a reasonable job in that respect. I think they're now well regarded and well respected, and that's probably the most important aspect of the last couple of years.